Google. Hey Google, turn on all lights.
Okay, well, sure.
That
Turning
works.
29 lights on.
Thank you. Hey Google, good morning.
Hello, Daddy. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Google. Hey Google, whoa, stop. Holy. Google a bit crazy today. Okay, yeah, perfect. Oh, I'm coming. Come on. Oh, come on.
Yo, what's wrong with the lock, man? You gotta change that. Hey Google, put on podcasts.
Automating a workspace. Sounds nice, right? Well, it is, but it can also be a bit daunting. There are tons of apps, devices, and ideas you can use to make your workspace productive, like super easy to just get up and running. Actually, it makes our morning super easy to get into and makes our everyday life a bit less stressful. It's been a few months since we've been trying to find ways to automate the office to a certain point, and I think that finally we are satisfied with it to the point that we are comfortable enough to show you guys what's possible with a few gadgets and an iPad. The first thing we thought about was, what do we want out of it? Is it security, efficiency, productivity? It's important to keep these things in mind so you can avoid wasting money on useless tech. Choosing a voice assistant is equally as important. There are many out there, and in our case, we often try to stick to Google. We've had such a lovely experience with it and we enjoyed a lot more compared to Alexa. Although note that this is a cloud control system and not a local system. It's a bit slower because it has to go through the cloud to perform actions on third-party clouds like Q, but it's a lot simpler to set up. However, most local controls don't have voice set up out of the box. Home Assistant is a favorite for many people because it's a lot more powerful, integrates well with everything, and because it has local control. Most tech though does work with Google Assistant, but you might come across some devices that don't. Sometimes it's hard to avoid those, but I do recommend at least to make sure they have an app. Our Aperture Studio lights are a great example of this, and so we often find ourselves pairing these with smart plugs as well, just to overall integrate it into the ecosystem. Ultimately though, everything starts on your home automation app to create automations and routines. In our case, we use Google Home as our automation hub. It's the place we go to control all the settings that our Google Assistant has access to. It's not Zigbee compatible, which is the translation layer it uses to communicate with devices. Instead, we have a Hue hub that takes care of that for the most part. Not always, because not all Zigbee devices are compatible with themselves, but Google Home allows most of our cloud services to come together and work as one. This is true for our lights and switches, our Dyson humidifier, TV, camera system, door lock, and so on. There are of course massive limitations when it comes to modifying specific features on devices, but that's why I always recommend keeping their corresponding apps handy. If you rename your devices on certain apps, your Google Home renames things automatically for you so it can keep up with your voice assistant. This is why it's super important to keep names simple. Also, plugs act like a switch, so be careful and don't make the same mistake we did months ago by connecting your Wi-Fi to one, because if you turn your lights off, it will shut off everything. The app itself is super nicely done, but it can get a bit confusing to navigate. Adding accessories is a bit tricky. It's not like Apple's HomeKit where you can simply scan QR codes. In fact, you will most likely have to authenticate yourself with a manufacturer of devices that work with Google. It's the only way to be able to use them. The cool thing is that there are hundreds of apps that support Google Home, and once you've connected them to the home, you can easily control them through the main UI. For lights, you can control the dimming and color, but for more complicated things like our Dyson air purifier, you cannot seem to tweak a few of the features it has to offer. Seems like the only way of doing so is through the hub. I do wish moving accessories to specific rooms required less digging too, but it's pretty nice knowing I can separate everything the way we want it. Creating rooms is also a bit of a hassle since you need to dig for the device in order to create a room as you move the device to it. These things aren't a deal breaker for me, although I do wish wish routines worked based on the state of other devices. Sadly, it does not work with motion sensors. This is where you'll start lacking customization features on behalf of these types of assistants. Sadly, the motion sensor only turns on Hue products. That's why many YouTubers recommend using HomeKit or using something more complex like Home Assistant. Look, overall though, the app has tons of customizations, whether that's integrating Google Calendar, stocks, payments with Google Assistant, creating a shopping list, and so on. It just works for us. But not everything is possible or smooth through it. In fact, one of our biggest pet peeves is having to talk to Google to unlock the front door, mainly because it always asks for our PIN. So instead, what we did was we added an NFC tag to work with our lock. I placed it on my Alex store, and every time someone texts that they are here, I simply just tap my phone and play my automation. Way shorter than having to go into my August app, open my workspace, and unlock the door. Another thing I like to do with NFC tags is set my posting alarm for my Instagram posts when I need to. I typically always post at around noon depending on the day of the week, and so it's nice being able to toggle my alarm with one tap. NFC tags are crazy cheap and come in packs of 10 to 30. You can even download an app called NFC Tools and write data to your tags, like for example, sharing a link, sharing Wi-Fi information, a phone number, FaceTime someone, and a lot more. I actually think that it might not be a bad idea to add a tag for addresses. It'll make our shipping system a lot more efficient when we need someone to go to Canada Post, UPS, or FedEx. MOFT does happen to have their own NFC tags and Jan uses it from time to time, but the thing about their accessories that makes our automatic workspace more efficient is how easy it is to integrate their snap system within our workflow. Our iPads live within our Husky thanks to their wall stand. Sticking their magnets to any case allows for us to use their system all over the office. We get to use their float stand next to our Google Home Hub when we need more screen real estate. It's also portable, by the way, if you ever want to bring it around. The materials on this are super nice and built with suede, but we much rather just stick their tablet stand on the iPad if we ever decide to leave the office with it. Although as our automation tool, I much rather keep this on the wall at all times. But when we need the iPad for work like answering emails, I love the fact that I can easily pair this up with the Magic Keyboard. Yes, even with their snap case on. They were clever enough to install the connector on the case and even add a nice compartment for the pen. They truly made it easy to expand our tech life convenience in a single snap, and that's why it's part of our automation tech within the office. That being said, our lights are mainly from Hue. It's the brand I mostly like to stick with, even though they are a bit overpriced. I finally found a nice gradient light strip they have that makes the desk pop a lot more. Back at home, I used to have the regular light strip, but I moved it next to the office window. Hence, explains the only light source living within our office room on the Google Home app. I technically had to buy some switches to connect our aperture lights to the app. These work super well. I also use it for some of the Gantri lights and source lights that aren't Hue compatible. For those that are, if you need further customizations for your bulbs, light bars, and light strips, the Hue app really takes care of all of it. The only thing I hate is that our motion sensor and our dim controller doesn't connect to Google Home, so creating routines with these for all of our devices is just not possible. I only find the motion sensor useful when entering the office when it's really dark, but the controller did come in super handy. I did configure it in a way that allows me to choose our YouTube scenes for when we need to film. I get to apply my original orange theme to my setup and dim the lights that most often appear on camera to avoid overexposing my shots. I sadly can't do the same with my aperture lights because the Hue switch on them only controls power, so I end up using their app to modify both of my softboxes and our little camera light. I do the same with my Govee lights. The only thing is that I needed to make sure they were Wi-Fi supported. The old light strips I had on this desk weren't, so Google wasn't able to recognize them. I needed to go through the app to turn them on or off, and I wasn't about to add smart switches to every single device on my desk. Security wise, we have our August lock and our Google Nest Cam. The lock works like a charm. It's really nice knowing you only need to replace the lock body to install this device. This makes it super easy for us to unlock and lock our door and share access to the office when we need to. I also get notified when Jan arrives to the office when I'm not there. By the way, this was connected through HomeKit to be able to interact with our NFC tag, but the app can really do it all if you don't necessarily need that functionality. I have it set to auto lock when I leave the office for more than 5 minutes and auto unlock when I get to the office in the morning. morning. This is where I typically always like to goof off and say hi to the camera. This is probably one of the coolest things we have. I get notifications when someone is outside, and due to its face recognition, it is very much able to let us know who's there. So if you miss a text from a friend, the camera will let you know that they are there. With this, I can then just tap my phone in my drawer and unlock the door. Plus, it's nice knowing that the camera can also last for weeks. I think it's the first time we charge it ever since we got it about a month ago. It's just important to make sure it only records motion and not record all the time. I do use our Google Nest Hub to preview live footage though. I have it on this little table and it allows me to glance over it when I work. When I know someone is for a fact on their way, I can just let the live preview roll and know when the person is there. The hub is sick. It works hand in hand with Google Nest Speaker and my mesh system to listen to my voice. In here you can pretty much view every single device connected to your smart system, and the hub delivers device features that the Google Home app doesn't seem to deliver. Plus, it makes a nice little clock when needed. I of course don't use this to consume content. That's why we have the TV. I finally was able to hook it up to Google Home so I can turn it on or off, control the volume, and choose what I want to play. The connection is only possible because of the LG ThinQ app, although as you're probably seeing, the LG servers are terrible, so sometimes it doesn't work. But when it works, it really feels nice not having to use all of these remotes, and that also goes for my Dyson air purifier. It is automated. I can talk to it to do things like set fan speeds, set the oscillation, and change the airflow modes. This thing is what avoids Jan from sneezing all the time. I am actually super glad I have one. It also reduces all the dust particles in the office and gives us a bit of a breeze when we have long shooting sessions. I recommend giving one a try. I might even get their heater for the winter. But look, all of this really integrates well into one single app. For the most part, we use our iPad to take care of all of it, which makes our office feel automated. We don't need the fanciest functions or the fanciest commands to make it all work, mostly when we move things around quite often. I think it's super nice being able to get the basics down with very little knowledge about automating your workspace. I encourage you to learn about it. It makes our everyday life so easy and practical. This is how I've been automating my office for a while now, and as the months go by, I'll keep adding little tricks here and there. I hope you've enjoyed this video and gives you a few ideas of what you can do. I'm signing out, guys. Take care. Peace.